Hey, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're talking about a totally different path to building wealth. One that, let's be honest, they definitely don't teach you in school. We're going to forget all that old advice about just putting money in an index fund and hoping for the best in 40 years. Instead, we're going to break down the real steps, the actual ladder you can climb to build wealth from scratch, starting right now.
You know, it starts early, right? From the moment we step into school, we're kind of fed advice just like this. Entrepreneur Mark Tilbury remembers a teacher telling him his dreams of owning a business, a Ferrari, a mansion were just totally unrealistic. Now this safe advice is meant to protect us, I get that. But what if it's actually the very thing holding us back?
See, here's the thing. When the system kind of crushes your hopes and dreams, you lose the motivation you need to do the hard work that building wealth actually requires. For Tilbury, the real risk wasn't dreaming big. It was the thought of staying in a dead-end job that he absolutely hated. The biggest gamble you can take? It's letting being realistic put a ceiling on your potential.
That traditional path, get a job, save a little bit here and there, it's a slow crawl toward wealth that can take 40 or even 50 years. And look, that's one way to do it. But if you want to build wealth faster, you're going to need a completely different ladder to climb. So let's actually climb that ladder. We're going to start at the very bottom, the foundation, your mindset and your time. Then we'll get into building an income engine, scaling your reach so people actually know you exist, and then, and this is key, only then do we talk about multiplying and protecting your wealth. And finally, we'll check out the view from the very top.
All right, let's dive into rung one. Before you even think about earning a single dollar, your very first investment has to be in your mindset and how you use your time. This is the absolute foundation for everything that's going to follow.
Okay, first off, you have to be so careful who you take money advice from. I mean, if they haven't built wealth themselves, their advice might not be what you need. Second, when you hit a wall, and you will, don't just give up. Try to think of 10 different ways around it. You've also got to be willing to step outside your comfort zone. That's where all the growth happens. And hey, especially when you're young and have fewer responsibilities, taking calculated risks to boost your income is pretty much a no-brainer.
And this is where things get really interesting, because it totally reframes what your first major purchase should be. Look, wealth isn't built in one brilliant move. It's the result of consistent actions, day in and day out. That's why the very first thing you should buy isn't an asset, it's your own time. Things like getting your groceries delivered or automating your bills, those aren't lazy expenses. They're strategic investments that free up the hours you desperately need to build your future.
Okay, on to rung two. So, you've clawed back some time. The very next step is to build an engine, something that generates surplus capital. This is the fuel for the rest of your climb up the ladder. So, here's a bit of an uncomfortable truth. Investing doesn't create wealth. It only multiplies it. And if you're trying to multiply tiny amounts of money, well, you get tiny results. I mean, a 10% return on $1,000 is just $100. You're not going to build a fortune on that. This is what we call the small numbers trap. To escape that trap, you have to shift your focus completely. Before you even think about buying assets, you need to buy the ability to generate more income. And you do that by acquiring what's called a high-income skill, a skill that dramatically increases how much you can earn per hour. So what exactly makes a skill high income? Well, first, it's tied directly to revenue. Think things like sales, performance marketing, or making deals. Second, your pay is tied to the outcome, not just the hours you put in. And third, it's a skill that companies are always looking for and willing to pay top dollar for.
All right, let's climb up to rung three. You can have the most valuable skill in the entire world, but you know what? It's completely worthless if nobody knows you have it. The next step is all about building a system that makes sure the right people find you.
Man, this quote just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? There are basically two types of broke people in the world. Those with no skills and those with amazing skills that nobody knows exist. That second group, that's the most painful place to be. Because you're competent, but you're completely invisible. You have to build access.
So how do you do that? Well, you build a distribution system. This could be a YouTube channel, a newsletter, a strong social media presence, something that consistently brings opportunities to you. See, when you have distribution, you gain pricing power because you suddenly have options. You're not hunting for work anymore, you're filtering through opportunities. And that is how you build a real cash flow machine.
Okay, let's move on to rung four. So you've bought back your time, you've developed a high-income skill, and you've built a system that's generating extra cash. Now, it is finally time to multiply that money. This is the step most people want to jump to first, but it only really works when you've got fuel to pour on the fire.
And this chart, wow, it really shows you the power of just staying in the game. A famous Fidelity study found that if you missed just the 5 best trading days over 4 decades, your long-term gains would have been cut by 38%. And if you missed the 10 best days, your gains would have plummeted by 55%. The lesson is crystal clear. Invest for the long term and do not try to time the market.
But listen, just as fast as you can make a fortune, you can lose it all. Mark Tilbury tells this story about a friend who was one of the richest men in the UK. He went all in on this leveraged investment that seemed way too good to be true. And yeah, it was. He lost everything. This is exactly why you have to protect your wealth through diversification. A really simple way to diversify in the stock market is with a 3-fund portfolio. You get your growth from a broad U.S. stock index, you get global exposure from an international index to spread out your risk, and you get stability from a total bond market fund. It's a really straightforward strategy that helps you avoid getting wiped out if one single market takes a nosedive.
But true diversification, it goes way beyond just stocks. It means having multiple streams of income flowing in. Take Mark Tilbury, for example. He's got income coming from his physical shops, a distribution company, affiliate deals, ads, stock dividends, and rental properties. If one of those streams dries up, the others just keep on flowing. Now that is real financial security.
And that brings us to the final rung on the ladder, the end game. Once you're generating and multiplying wealth, the ultimate goal is to secure it for the long term by shifting from just earning and investing to true, defensible ownership.
The businesses that last forever, they don't just sell a product, they sell an identity. Think about it. Coca-Cola doesn't sell sugar water, it sells happiness. Nike doesn't just sell shoes, it sells the idea of victory. When you build an iconic brand, you elevate what you're doing from selling a thing to selling the story behind the thing.
And finally, you protect that brand by building what's called a competitive moat, a unique advantage that keeps your competitors at bay. Think of Amazon's insane distribution network or Apple's seamless ecosystem of products. A moat makes your business the only logical choice for your customers and ensures that once you grow, you don't shrink back down.
So when you boil it all down, building wealth isn't about finding that one magic stock pick. It's about climbing a ladder where each step you take makes the next one that much easier. It all starts with buying back your time, then building a skill, scaling your reach, and finally multiplying and owning your assets. So the only question left to ask is, which rung are you on today?